On today's show, I'm sharing 3 ideas you can implement in your course today that will help to boost course completion and have your students excited to work with you in your next steps and your high-ticket offers. Welcome to episode 174 of the Digital Course Creator Podcast, where we talk about the ins and outs of making your digital course successful for your students and for your business. Today is all about helping your students to get through your course and actually implement what they are learning. This is both an audio and a video podcast, so feel free to switch to the platform you like best using the link in the description or show notes. And regardless of where you're listening today, you'll want to stick around to the end of this episode for today's 60-second solution, where I'm going to share my #1 resource all course creators should be including in their course for maximum completion potential. So let's jump into today's conversation. I know that you want your students to be able to finish the digital course that you so painstakingly created, recorded, promoted, and agonized over. But the truth is that in our post-COVID world, it isn't enough to have an interesting course idea, a catchy sales page, and some video modules. Your course has to be designed to not only help students move through the content, but to skip binging Netflix in favor of your lessons. While this is not always easy, there are some steps that you can take to boost completion and implementation rates for your students. Today, I'm sharing with you 3 ideas that you can implement to boost your course completion rates and have students hiring you again. The first 2 are going to seem like no-brainers when you hear them. The third idea may have you shouting at your device telling me that I'm wrong. So I can't wait to hear what you think. Let's get started, though, with something that we can probably all agree on, and that is having a variety of resources available in your course. You want to make sure that you have a variety of ways to put your content into action. Remember, we all have different learning styles. Some of us learn best by listening. Some of us learn best by reading. I'm one of those people. Some learn best by doing tactile things like filling out workbooks, doing puzzles, filling in prompts. When you commit yourself to creating a variety of learning paths for your students, they are going to be more engaged. They're going to be more willing to bypass their latest Netflix binge for your course modules instead. And I know that this can be tricky because the temptation is to fill your course with recorded video modules and have a beautiful workbook. I see so many course creators saying, who can I hire to create a really beautiful workbook for my video modules? And that is important. It is good to have a lovely workbook that people can use. But imagine that this is the 10th course someone has taken, and every single course has video lessons and a workbook to complete. Not only are they going to be bored, you are not going to stand out as the person who can really help them, who's really taking that extra step to put this information into their hands in a usable way. So your course becomes like everyone else's if you are not offering a variety of resources, if you're simply relying on video modules and a workbook that they can fill out. But then the question comes in, what am I supposed to do? Should I scrap the videos, the workbooks that I've worked so hard on? And the answer is no. But you do want to give your students opportunities to collaborate, to get feedback, to ask questions. You could gamify the process and their progress with gift cards or even a handwritten thank you note. Don't you love those when they arrive in the mail? You could create calculators that they can calculate things. You can create templates, quizzes. You might, if you're techie, might create some simulated examples. You could even create a private podcast with the audio from your lessons so that they can go on their daily walk and still get your course content in their earbuds instead of having to sit down at a computer and listen. I know there have been plenty of courses where I have consumed the entire course via that private podcast versus having to sit down in front of my computer. As a busy mom, homeschooling mom, professor, I can't always just sit at my computer and watch courses. So I know that having that private podcast is really helpful. By engaging your digital course students in multiple ways, like we're talking about here, you're keeping them interested. You are standing out from the crowd. You're helping them to be successful, and you are truly meeting them with the resources that fit their learning styles and their life needs. So I hope that you're going to consider adding some variety to the resources that you are currently planning or already have in your digital course. This brings me to idea 2. The second idea for helping your students to complete the course is something that we tend to focus on when selling the course, but then we abandon it as we move into delivery mode. And that is the importance of creating urgency. So think back to as your launch of your course. You tend to add in fast acting bonuses. The cart closes on a certain day, and then you can no longer join the course until it's open again. We're creating urgency, right? But we have to carry that urgency through. Now that they've purchased, now we have to convince them and help them remember that your course is solving a problem. We want to help them know that they need to urgently take care of that problem. So be sure that you are consistently talking about how the course is solving that problem. Create those tie-ins. We do this so beautifully in our sales process. In those webinars, we talk about, well, if you have this problem, the course solves it this way. Remember, it ties in. This is the module on that concept. But we stop doing that when we get into the course because the hard work is done, right? We got people into the course, but the hard work isn't done. Now we need them to finish the course. So talk about how the course solves the problem so that the purpose stays front and center for your students. You can do this in a lot of different ways. You can create urgency by offering limited number of opportunities to get help through a one-on-one call. I know recently a course I was in, if you joined the course early, you got that one-on-one call with the course creator, but it was only available for a certain amount of time. You could do group Q&A calls during the course or have a Facebook group for the course experience that will expire. When you're putting a deadline on these opportunities for personalized help, it can spur on the progress that your students are taking through the course. The key is that you can't forget all of the messaging and the marketing that you worked so hard on to create, to share during your launch and sales cycle. These things are still important. They need to be up front, in front of everyone, so that they know how the course can truly help. Sometimes when we buy courses, we tend to do it a little bit on an impulse, especially if the course is under a certain amount. We tend to say, oh yeah, and I'll get to it later. But if we just get to it later, it's not actually going to help us with our problem. We need to do that now. So you could try all of these things we've been talking about. You can also send a weekly email to your students, letting them know how the different pieces of the course will help them. For example, if you have a course that helps parents of toddlers learn new parenting techniques for the new stage of life their child is in, you might say, you know what, Module 2 helps them to navigate tricky family conversations where they're being criticized for their choices. So if you are near the holiday season, or near any time when it's likely that family gatherings are going to happen, you can say, hey, you know what? Go back to Module 2. Remember that we talked about this concept of how to handle family members that aren't exactly on board with what you're doing as a parent. And that sparks their interest. Oh, I haven't gotten to Module 2. Maybe I should go look at that. You could say, you know what? Maybe Module 4 helps with picky eating stages. Maybe you bring up the concept of the fact that now we're in a new season. Maybe new foods are being introduced. How do we help our toddler through those picky eating stages? Maybe Module 7 is about helping understand why your toddler is now suddenly awake all night chattering to you about all these amazing things and ideas, and you just want to go to sleep. Maybe you can talk to them about Tell a story about when your toddler was awake all night chattering with great excitement about all of these ideas, and you can talk about strategies for managing that. And you can direct them back to Module 7. Remind them of what's coming and how their life is going to be different as a result of implementing the course concepts that you're teaching. Just like we feel urgency to eat when our stomach rumbles, right around lunchtime, it starts to gurgle, it starts to rumble, usually inappropriately at the worst time possible. We want our students to feel that same kind of urgency to move through the course. When our stomach starts to rumble, we say, need to go eat a snack at the very least. Our students, we want them to see that how doing the work can help and what they might be missing out on if they don't dig in soon. Create urgency in your course, just like you create it through the sales cycle as you're getting students into your course. All right. Oh, I'm a little bit nervous. This brings us to idea 3. This is the controversial one. And I know that I'm going to have some unhappy listeners. I might even lose some listeners here and some viewers after I share this concept, but it is one that I feel very passionate about. So here we go. The easiest way to keep your students' attention is to not drip your course. Yes, I said that one of the easiest ways to keep your students engaged is to allow them access to your course content on their terms. Of course, that means you still have to honor refund boundaries and your terms and conditions, right? I'm not talking about violating your terms and conditions of your business. What I'm talking about is allowing them to consume the course content in a way that makes the best sense for them. We often hear that you need to drip a course so that you don't create overwhelm. But what happens when you have students who need to work in big chunks of time and can't wait for that next module to be dripped in a week or 2? You know what they do? They go on to other projects and set your course aside, and maybe they never come back to it. I will be the first to tell you that there might be times when you need to drip a course. Maybe you're creating the course as it's being launched. Maybe there's a certification process or some guidelines that you have to complete step A and get approval before moving to step B. But for the vast majority of digital courses, there is no reason to drip the content. Remember, you are only responsible for how you feel, how you think, and what you do. You being the key word. You are responsible for how you feel, how you think, and what you do. When you drip content, you are telling someone that you know better than they do how they learn and how they need to consume the content. I have been creating digital courses for over 15 years. There are times when I legally, because of the way I work, have to drip parts of the content. But for everything else, I let my students have full access to the work so that they can fit it in based on their schedules, based on their needs, based on their learning preferences. And you know what? They work through the material in a way that is right for them. I have some that follow my suggested pacing and spacing. I have others who breeze through the content quickly. In each case, what I'm doing is I'm trusting that my students know what's best for their needs and for their life. And when you think about it this way, when you think about overwhelm and think about needing to control that overwhelm for your students, it kind of makes you step back and wonder, is it necessary? Should I be controlling my students' choices in this way? And 9.9 times out of 10, the answer is probably no. Personally, I've only ever made it through digital courses that I can binge complete. Like I said, I homeschool. I'm a college professor. I'm a business owner. I have to budget my time carefully. And a lot of times that means if I have a course to get through, I tell my family, hey guys, I need this day to work through the course. They know to feed me at appropriate intervals. They know to leave me alone. And unless something really big is happening that I need to know about, they just don't bother me. And I go through the whole course. It gives me the opportunity to see what the whole course is about, to start taking action quickly, and then to know where to find the pieces when I need to go back. It doesn't mean I go through once and done. It means I go through once, start acting, and then as I start to make adjustments, I go back and find those modules that I want to watch again. And I do that over and over and over. But because I have a really solid understanding of the course as a whole, I can do that with more ease, more flexibility, and I log in more often. The courses that get dripped are the ones that sit unfinished. In fact, I have one right now that's unfinished that I really need to get through, but I had to wait until that course was done being dripped so that I can binge it. I can go through and watch the whole thing at once, start taking action, and then make adjustments. Because the key of any digital course is that we want our students to be able to take action. So the next time you're thinking about whether to drip a course or to let your students choose the schedule that works best for them, keep in mind that you are competing against a Netflix series that just had an entire new season of 15 episodes drop. Let your course be the one that's binged. Not that Netflix series. It'll still be there, but it's not necessarily going to help them move forward in their life, in their business. Whoever it is you serve is not going to help them solve that problem. Let them binge it. It's okay. They'll go back, they'll ask questions, they'll take action, they'll implement faster. Now, as we've been talking about ideas in today's episode for helping your students finish your digital course, remember we still have our 60-second solution coming up where I'm going to share my number one resource all course creators should be including in their course for maximum completion potential. Because course completion is 100% critical to the success of your students and your business. If your students don't complete the course, nothing changes in their life. Your business doesn't have raving fans who tell everyone about the fantastic experience that they had in your course. Your marketing, in fact, just got a little bit harder because you don't have these raving fans. On the other hand, if you have students who are finishing your course, who are implementing what they learned, their life just got better. Your business just took a leap forward, and it's truly a win-win for your students to finish the digital course they purchased, right? This week, for your action item, I want you to take a look at your own digital course or your plans for your digital course and explore how you can incorporate each of these 3 ideas into your plan. If you feel like you're getting stuck, look to the courses that you have enjoyed and finished, because let's be honest, you have probably purchased at least one course in your entrepreneurial journey. What made those courses binge-worthy? What kept you magnetized to the content? And conversely, if you've purchased courses that are gathering dust in the file cabinet, maybe you don't even remember how to log into them, ask yourself why. What was holding you back? Did you purchase it at the wrong time? You weren't quite ready for it? Did you get distracted by something else? Did you get distracted by that Netflix series that you love that dropped about the same time as that course content? By looking at both sides of the coin, you can begin to really enhance your own course plans and implementation. Don't let this action item just be about thinking, okay? Pull out your pen, pull out your paper, write down your ideas. Write down what you uncover in your reflection, in digging into those courses that you've both finished and the ones that you can't remember how to log into, because we all have those. And I promise, if you give this some thought now, you will better be able to implement the concepts into your own course and begin to see your students thrive. And that's what we want. As you're working on incorporating these ideas into your existing course or course plans, you might find that you have additional questions. Maybe you aren't sure how to incorporate a variety of resources or how to add urgency into your course, or even how to just release your course. This is where getting one-on-one help with the digital course creation process can not only save you time, but also boost the efficacy of your course for your students. So be sure to join my waitlist for one-on-one coaching today so that when you're ready for extra support and guidance in your course creation process and messaging for your business, you'll have a spot. Head on over to digitalcoursecreatorguide.com/waitlist. Now, are you ready for our 60-second solution? I know I am. I'm super excited about this because when we think about taking action, sometimes it can really get overwhelming, burdensome. So today, I want to share with you the number one resource all course creators should be including in their course to maximize course completion rates. And it's simple and fast to implement. Make your course accessible by including captions and transcripts for all of your audio content. Nearly 20% of the world's population, our global population, has some degree of hearing loss. That is 1 in 5 people. 1 in 5 people will benefit from the inclusion of captions and transcriptions in your content. There are so many options now for adding these two features to your course for minimal effort and minimal cost on your part. When you provide accessible resources, you are going to boost your course completion rate. Your students will be more successful, and you'll likely reduce your refund request rate. And bonus, by adding these transcripts and captions, you are also going to be reaching your visual learners even more effectively. Make your course accessible today. That is the number one way to maximize your course completion potential today. Thank you for listening to this episode of the Digital Course Creator Podcast. If you found this episode helpful, be sure to hit the subscribe button and leave a comment letting me know what action you will take this week. And I'll see you back here next week for another episode of the Digital Course Creator Podcast. Until then, keep creating, keep inspiring, and let's keep building courses that change lives. Have a healthy, safe, and happy week.